Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Jackie and I'm an aspiring fiction author. If you are not new here, hello! It's been a few weeks. As you've probably gathered from my last couple of videos as well as the title of this video, 2020 has not gotten off to the best start for me writing-wise. And I hope at least, fingers crossed, I hope that I've gotten to the end of my slump. It is now almost the end of February, so it has been a good 2 months. And I feel like I'm finally ready to get back into things. And not just from I need to force myself to get back into things because the year is disappearing, but like I actually feel like I could start writing something. So that's a good thing. But I think there are a few things that I did wrong that contributed to me not only having a slump, but to that slump lasting for so long. So I thought I would make a video to share the experience. So I've made a list of 5 things that I did wrong or that I could have done better to get this year off to a good start. Mistake number 1 is that I didn't give myself enough downtime after my last project. So if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I did NaNoWriMo for the first time last year, and my NaNoWriMo project took me from, well, if we include plotting time, it took me from the beginning of October until the 29th of December. So I had the month before NaNoWriMo, which was spent plotting out a couple of different ideas. Then November was writing my 50,000 words. I did another 20 or so thousand words in December and finished at the end of last year. So the plan was to take a week or 2 off, start up again in mid-January with 3 different plotting methods for 3 different ideas, and by mid to late February be ready to start writing my next project. It is now late February, today is the 25th, and that has not happened. I'm not ready to start writing at all. And as I mentioned, one of the reasons is because I don't think I gave myself enough downtime. I don't think a week or even 2 weeks was enough time to really relax and give myself a break and just let my mind disconnect from my last project. And one of the things that made me realize this was actually one of my subscribers, Dawn. So if you watch my videos, well, you're watching this one. So if you're a regular viewer of this channel and you jump down to the comments, you'll see Dawn leaves comments on not all of my videos, but most of them. And she is an experienced writer and she leaves the most incredible essays basically about writing and creativity in her processes. And they are so helpful. So I highly recommend taking a look down below to see if she's written anything about this one. So she actually left a fairly long comment on my last video, I believe, about this. So I'll put a link to that in the description. But to summarize, so she said a few things. One is that she takes a few weeks to say goodbye to the old book and ease into the new one. And one of the rituals for saying goodbye is to write a letter that covers what she learnt about the book, about her as a writer and about the characters in the story, what worked and what didn't, and why she's thankful she started the book in the first place. Beyond the saying goodbye, she also suggested more experimental writing, so just brainstorming or writing short stories about characters, which takes the pressure off having to get straight into another novel, but you are still keeping the writing muscles lubricated and you can potentially use that stuff for future stories. Now, where I am now, 2 months later, is that I don't feel like I need to do that anymore. I don't feel like I need to say goodbye to the old book. I don't feel so much like I need recovery writing time, but I think if I had have done that earlier, then I probably could have had this slump be 1 to 3 weeks rather than 2 months. Mistake number 2 is trying to force plotting methods that just didn't work for me. Now, I think I have 4 videos in progress that I just haven't finished yet. 3 of them are plotting videos. And as I mentioned earlier, last year I tried 3 different plotting methods, and I really like the idea of trying different plotting methods just because I'm new to writing fiction. I think there's a lot you can learn from the way other people approach their projects. And I know that maybe I should just attempt to pants a novel to see what happens, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to pants something from start to finish. I could do a number of scenes off the top of my head, but I'm sure I would run into a wall and have no idea what to do next. So in theory, I like the idea of plotting, and the methods I tried in the past, so they were take off your pants, save the cat, and story engineering. I found elements from each of them that I really liked, and I could put them together into a process that I could follow for the next book. The thing is, I wanted to try some new methods. So the ones I chose were the snowflake method, story grid, and the story clock. I can't really comment on the story clock too much because I haven't really tried it yet. Like I filmed the intro to that video and did some time-lapsing of me writing out a clock. But I haven't really been through the process yet. So let's put that one to the side. Snowflake method, I really struggled with because at its very basic, you start with a sentence, you expand it to a paragraph, you expand that to a page, you expand that to 4 pages, etc., etc. Being able to do that implies that you already know what you're going to be writing about. And I don't. I'm using these plotting methods as a way to discover what I could be writing about. And getting asked to turn a paragraph into a page doesn't help me do that. So I didn't find that particularly helpful. Story grid, I have many thoughts on. I'm deciding whether or not I should publish those 2 videos, like whether I should just do them as a rant review, it didn't work for me, or whether I should give them one final go and see if I can get something out of them. But story grid I found very difficult because the book wasn't structured as well as I would have liked. The content wasn't as comprehensive as I would have liked. So the one example that I keep giving is that the author introduced a number of different genres. He mentions that each genre has obligatory scenes and conventions, and then he only covers the obligatory scenes and conventions for a thriller. So it's great if you're writing a thriller, but what if one of your books is a romance, like one of the ones I was trying to plot out? So it was quite incomplete. And then when it came to the exercises or the different methods, it just wasn't well structured. Like, it wasn't clear how one led into the next. It wasn't clear when I was meant to be doing different things. He introduces the story grid spreadsheet, which seems to be more of an editing method than an outlining method, and then has another story grid he covers, which is basically a list of scenes and zigzags, which illustrate the thematic changes and the emotional changes and so on. Anyway, if I publish that video, there will be more information. The point of this mistake, though, is that I kept forcing these methods. Even though I knew they weren't working, I kept going back to them because I'd committed to doing these methods. And part of that was something I commented on in my last video about whether Authortube is detrimental to writing. One of the reasons why I was pushing to try these new methods is because I was doing Authortube and wanted to make new videos about them. However, now I'm thinking, given that writing's my priority, maybe it would have been better not to try and force these plotting methods and even just go back to the ones that I tried last year that I liked and start working on the next project. And maybe when I'm feeling a bit stronger, more robust, I have some more energy to tackle something new, then I can tackle a challenging new plotting method as well as a challenging new book. So that was mistake number 2, trying to force things that weren't working for me. Mistake number 3 was taking on extra unnecessary challenges. And in fact, that feeds on quite well from what I just said, because trying the different plotting methods was an extra challenge beyond the existing challenge of writing when I'm not an experienced fiction writer and trying to write on the side of a full-time job, which is a little bit challenging at the moment. And then on top of that, 3 weeks ago, or a little bit over, I decided I was going to try the hashtag 75 hard challenge. So this is a mental toughness challenge where you're supposed to follow a diet, work out twice a day for 45 minutes, and at least one of those workouts must be outside, drink 3.8 litres or a gallon of water a day, read 10 pages of an entrepreneurship or personal development book, and take a progress photo every day. So, 3.5 weeks ago, I decided, why not do this? And that took a lot of energy, unsurprisingly. So I did actually stop yesterday, and a couple of things happened there. One is that this is a challenge that's taking a lot of my mental and physical energy and willpower, which are all finite resources. So it's taking all of these resources away from writing, which is what I've said is a priority. And if I'm taking these resources away from the thing that's supposed to be a priority, is it really a priority? So that's one reason it's a mistake. We do have limited resources. We only have the ability to do so much well at any one time. I think it's impossible to be all or nothing in multiple areas long term. Like, yes, for 3 weeks I can be gung-ho about this health and fitness challenge, I can be gung-ho about my writing, I can try all these things, and then I burn out. maybe you don't, but I do. So that was one thing. I just think I was committing to trying too much at once, and my writing, it wasn't even suffering as a result, it just wasn't happening as a result. The other thing is that maybe a week into this challenge I started reading In the Flow by Alyssa Vitti, which is a book basically about how to get your menstrual cycle and your hormones to work for you. So if there's too much information, skip. I'll put a timestamp up for whenever this discussion finishes. Basically, Alyssa's thesis is that our world is structured based on male hormonal patterns. So men have a 24-hour hormonal cycle, which is based on the circadian rhythm, and this is how their testosterone and cortisol levels fluctuate throughout the day. So they wake up, those levels are at their highest, they want to basically take the bull by the horns, they want to go out and do things and be productive, and then that declines throughout the day. So in the late afternoon they start thinking, oh, I'm ready to put all of my doing aside now and I really want to socialize and bond and so on. And then in the evening, that's when they're ready to retreat to their man cave and settle down for the evening. And if you look at the way our days are structured, that's exactly how they're structured. So we wake up in the morning, we go to work, we have our day of work and productivity, then there's happy hour after work and going out for dinner with friends, and then in the evening it's going home and chilling and watching Netflix before bed. Now, that works very well for men, but women don't have a 24-hour hormonal cycle. We have a 4-week-ish hormonal cycle. And one of the things Alyssa says in the book is that different weeks have different strengths. Now, I might do a separate video on this, so I'm not going to go into it too much here. But what that got me thinking was that so much advice out there comes from men, and it's for men. Like all of these, let's say 75-day challenges or however long challenges where you just grit your teeth and get onto it. The very, Gary V, struggle until you make it type of thing where you just push and push and push. And I'm a little bit sick of it. And this is, if you're a man watching, this is nothing against you. In general, I love men and guys. I have a lot of guy friends. I'm married. But when I was listening to this, I was honestly just getting a little bit pissed off at the patriarchy and how there are just so many things I see around me and the way the world is structured that are not healthy for women, and they don't take our needs into consideration. And this challenge is one of those things. But that is a little bit of a tangent. The main point here was that I was taking on too many challenges at a time. I think one of the reasons why we take on so many challenges at a time, though, is because that's a very masculine way of doing it, and it's possible to do it because your energy resets every day. When you're a woman and your strengths are different from week to week, maybe that'll work for you, but if not, maybe that's the reason why it's not working. So, as I said, I might do another video on that, but summary, too many challenges at one time means Jackie gets mentally drained and cannot write. So that was mistake number 3. Mistake number 4 is a little bit controversial, and that is not quitting my job. If you watched my decade in review video, I believe I mentioned there that I hadn't been happy in Estonia pretty much since I got here. I've always loved Europe, but I've really loved the romance countries, so Italy, France, and Spain. They're the places that make my heart sing. And I've never found living in Estonia to be that rewarding. But my husband loves it here. So even though, by late 2018, I was like, this isn't really a match for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to stick it out because, he wants to be here and I love him and he's piggybacking on my visa, so I sort of need to be here if he wants to be here. And what I'd committed to was staying until the end of last year, and my resignation date was going to be December 18th. But what happened was, mid-last year, I started writing again, and I started working with a coach and fixing up some mental patterns, and I think the combination of working with a coach and doing writing, and I sold my business as well, put me in a much better place. So mentally and emotionally, by the time it got towards the end of the year, so November, December, I was like, that date's coming up, but I don't feel like I need that date anymore. I could stay for another few months. I could stay for 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year. So if things look a little different to the way they looked a second ago, it is because my camera ran out of battery and I had to plug it in and reset everything up again. So that is why things are different. What I was saying was that I got to the end of last year and thought, yeah, I could stay for longer. And unfortunately, things have changed a little since then, I think. And I think there are a few elements to this. One is that I haven't been writing, so I don't think I've been in as good a place mentally. I haven't been as resilient as I would like to be because I haven't had that fulfilling part of my life. Beyond that though, work itself has been challenging. So the end of last year, like all of marketing was working together to do our plans for 2020, and it was a really optimistic time. Like it felt like we were all working together for the first time. It felt like there were all of these possibilities. And then 2020 started, and there's one person in particular who isn't as cooperative as I'd like. And then at the beginning of the year, we also had an annual meeting, which I got to go to. And there was like a basically hour-and-a-half session where all of the regions, because it's an international company, so we have people in different offices in different countries, all of the regional representatives basically said they weren't happy with marketing. And fortunately, there was only really one thing that was directed at me, which I dealt with, but just being like lumped into marketing and everything that's not working, even when I know most of it has nothing to do with me, it was really disheartening. And it felt like, that combined with things not working as well with the 2020 plan, and I don't know, I just got really disheartened and felt like it was hopeless and there was no point in me being there at all. So I started this year and thought maybe one of these mistakes was that I should have left when things were good, rather than staying because things were good and thinking, oh, I can stretch this out. It should have been like, no, let's leave on a high. And in hindsight, I'm not saying I should have done that. I don't think I've been here for long enough extra to make that call. But now I'm in this position where in December, when I decided not to resign, I thought, I'll go to March and see how I feel. Now it's almost March and I'm ready to leave. The problem is, March is only, 5 months away from July. And if I hit July, then I will have been here for 2 years. And my resume is not very good for consistency. The only thing that I've done for more than 2 years is my business. And other than that, none of my jobs I've lasted 2 years. I think the longest was 22 months and everything else has been a year or less. So if I think about my future prospects, I know that someone who jumps around a lot is potentially not as attractive to certain employers. So I should try sticking it out just to show that I can have some level of consistency. But in hindsight, I think that if I had have left when I'd planned, I would have finished my experience in Estonia in a really good space, and I would be in a much better place now in terms of emotional and mental health and writing. And then mistake number 5 is probably going to be a surprising one to anyone who saw my last video, which is not continuing with Authortube. So I know it's only been a few weeks, it's not that much in the big scheme of things, but last year I was most weeks hitting 2 videos a week. And when I started this year, I've only done 2 videos so far. So I had one which was, I'm in a writing slump, and one which was, is Authortube bad for my writing? And at the time when I did the second video, I thought maybe Authortube is bad for my writing. In fact, it links back to that mistake I said about having multiple challenges and trying to do too much at once and not having enough left for what's important. And I think there was an aspect of that where I was thinking more about videos and keeping up with producing content than I was thinking about getting another book written. Having said that, it's now been, 3 or 4 weeks since I posted my last video, and even without Authortube, I haven't been writing. So I actually think it would have been helpful to continue doing Authortube and maybe have a little bit of a different focus on the videos, maybe not pressure myself to try these plotting methods that weren't working for the sake of having a video. But yeah, I think that if I had have kept up Authortube over the last few weeks, maybe I would have started writing a few weeks ago, because at least I still would have been engaging in not writing, but talking about writing and keeping my brain in the writer space. instead of just switching it off entirely. So those are my 5 mistakes that I made at the beginning of 2020, which I think have contributed to my 2-month writing slump. Having said that, I am feeling better. I do have a couple of ideas about how to kickstart my writing again. I'm still toying with whether or not I go back to those plotting methods and do my story grid and snowflake method videos, so let me know in the comments if you still want to see those, and maybe that'll be the motivation I need to get them done. In any case, in honor of mistake number 5, I will be back next week with another video, even if it kills me. Maybe not even if it kills me, because then I'll be dead and then there'll be no video, but I am determined to make it happen. I'm now ready to get back into the swing of Authortube. I'm going to get back into writing, and there will be another video. So if you enjoyed this one, please give me a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because all of that really helps, and I will see you next time. Bye.